gravity, not the Cavendish. I don't want the Cavendish experiment or Eratosthenes. I'm asking, have you measured gravity?
So you just said, have I measured gravity, but don't use the Cavendish experiment. So why are you placing those limits on me?
Well, no. Did you perform the Cavendish experiment?
Yeah.
Okay, so you recreated the Cavendish experiment in the exact same way that he did, where he isolated all of the variables by excluding his own mass from being involved in the equation by peering through some peephole in his house through his shed. You did that exact same experiment?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Why is
sorry.
that
You
surprising?
constructed.
I don't
No, no,
I don't really
I
understand
actually
where
am
this is
surprised.
going. Like,
I I
okay.
actually am surprised because all of the Cavendish experiments that I've seen on YouTube, no one has reduplicated the Cavendish experiment. They've all done it in a classroom or somewhere else. But you constructed your own shed and used the exact same balls that he did and the exact same torsion bar and removed yourself from the equation by not going into the shed and by observing it through a telescope. Is that what I'm to understand?
All I'm hearing from you right now is that you're surprised that there's gravity because you don't want there to be gravity. I just gave you proof.
No,
There's that word, and you're saying that
no.
you're just saying all this other stuff. I don't even know what you're saying.
I'm simply asking you if you reduplicated his
I've
exact
already
experiment.
said yes. Excuse me, sir. I've already answered yes. Next topic. Why are you belaboring the point? I don't see what the
Okay.
point is. Steve or Kyle, jump in. This is. I don't see what is.
Well,
What's the
I don't
first?
think it would matter if he
All right.
used the same instruments or the same exact
It doesn't.
balls that Cavendish did. The fact is, it was experiments that can be repeatable. He repeated it and got the same results.
Yeah, and
So
even
case
if
closed.
even if Cavendish never did the initial experiments, even if he never existed, other people have done the exact same experiment and gotten exact same results. And even more so, we do it every 4 years, I believe, that they tested to kind of we get a little more precision on G, right? So they do it all the time. It doesn't matter if the Cavendish did it, somebody else did it exactly. We know how to do these experiments, and people have done them. Would you agree?
Well,
Yes.
I've only watched a handful of these Cavendish experiments on YouTube, and in almost every single one of them, they show how demonstrably difficult it is to get an accurate measurement. And my point is that my first critique in those YouTube experiments or those YouTube demonstrations of the Cavendish is that they are not performing the same experiment that he did. And so it's I don't
what's
think
the
that
goal
it
of
can
the
be.
experiment? Well, hang on. Let's ask real quick because Dr. Kroon had asked me, what is the experiment? When you do an experiment, you have an objective goal in mind. You want to be able to demonstrate something. Show me the parameters, what you would have in an experiment to demonstrate what the value of G is and how that is different from any other version of the Cavendish experiment.
Well, I don't feel obligated to gravity because I'm not making the assertion that gravity exists.
But you're saying that other people have not repeated this experiment. The methodology is exactly the same. But you're saying that other people have not done this experiment and the methodological approach they take is identical. Whether they have the exact same setup as he did years ago, no, they refine experiments. We don't do exactly the same experiments, like pedantically the same as somebody else. We refine it so we get better data out of it. We know how to do these experiments more efficiently. Right? So this is 2018. We've done experiments. They produce a gravitational force. They can measure that force. We know the value of G a lot more, even more precise than we did 100 years ago. He answered the question. I don't know what else to ask.
Hey, Travis, watch this.
You need one of these.
Sorry, buddy. There's gravity.
Gummy bears.
Sorry, get over it. Get over it. There's gravity.
Edible gummy bears, Dr. Kroon. Edible gummy bears.
No more gummy bears for me.
I'm going to jump on Dr. Kroon because he made a mistake right now too. I'm going to correct him because I want to be fair. Dr. Kroon, you said that gravity only works in the vertical. However, if you take a plumb line and you go next to a mountain, you'll see a horizontal vector.
Yeah.
Mountain, so it can't work in the horizontal. Unless you're normalizing to an orthogonal thing and saying that that's the down. But in this particular case, if you're going to say that the Earth, I know, but am I not right?
Before we could run here, all right. We're consider the audience.
We're
trying to walk before we could run.
Being me.
And by the way, something that you don't need an instrument to do, like the eclipses. How do you answer that point that Dr. Kroon brought up? The fact that the eclipses will prove that there is a globe Earth. What's your answer to eclipses?
The issue that I would bring up is that I am not going to presuppose that it is the Earth that is blocking the sun from the between the lunar eclipse. I'm not going to presuppose that it's the Earth that is between the sun and the moon. That's not something that I'm going to throw into the equation. So if I'm observing that the moon is being eclipsed by something, my interpretation of the information is that there is something up in the sky that is occulting the moon.
Can you explain what that thing is? I'm curious. How do you've measured it?
No, I have no idea what it would be. I feel no need to explain what it is. I just observe it and watch it and go, wow, what the hell is that?
You said it occults the moon, but it doesn't. That's not the whole eclipse. Have you seen a lunar eclipse? You know what happens?
Yes.
What happens?
The
what
light
do you see?
of
what do you see?
A shadow going across the surface of the moon.
And then,
or if it's
from what direction? From what direction?
Look, I don't have observational records of when I was looking at certain phenomena.
Okay,
I just look at stuff and go, wow.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay, hold on 1 second. What happens after you reach totality? Is the moon completely gone, like during a solar eclipse, or not?
I haven't documented the observation. I just saw.
You said you saw. I mean, it's a pretty impressive sight. It's hard to forget. Forgive me for being frank, but essentially what happens is you have, during a total lunar eclipse, at first you have what appears to be a dark circle progressively blocking out more and more of the moon, and then it starts turning orangish red. So it's no longer blocked out, it's just changed red and orange. So there's no occultation there. That would be not supported by observation. So when you said that you're not going to presuppose that there's like an Earth and then a shadow and all that, you're just going to look at it and conclude that there's some occultation, I would say that that's not what we see. And I would refer you to videos where you could see time lapses of the lunar eclipses. It doesn't look like there's anything occulting it, in my opinion.
Okay, so there's nothing blocking the light of the sun from hitting the moon?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely something blocking it, but there's no... forgive me if I'm reading into this too much, because I've done a lot of flat Earth research, but some versions of this position maintain that there's an anti-moon that's invisible, and that's what's going in front of the moon or the sun during an eclipse. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if that's something you also maintain, but there certainly is, of course, the Earth itself, the spherical Earth, blocking out. Well, it's not really like blocking out. It's more that there's always a shadow. The Earth always has a shadow. It's just that the moon's orbit is inclined about things like 4 degrees or something like that. So it's far enough out and has a small enough physical size that it will not always pass through that shadow. And but when it does, we get a lunar eclipse because it's passing into the umbra. That's when you have a total solar eclipse is when it passes through the darkest part of our shadow. And if it just sort of does a glancing blow and goes through the penumbra, you get a partial solar eclipse. And so
did you say anti-moon? Dr. Kroon?
Yeah, I said that in my research of other flat Earth ideas, I came across, I don't remember who said it, but there's this just pervasive idea that some hold true to, that there's this like anti-moon that eats or like obscure or like cancels out the light of the moon or the sun during an eclipse. That's the only answer I've been able to find on the internet for what flat earthers think is happening during an eclipse. And again, I say that I'm not saying that you believe that, Travis, and I'm not saying even that every flat earther believes that. That's just the only explanation I've gathered from what some of them are saying.
Is that a thing, Travis?
Yeah, so just to
anti-moon.
Again, I don't know. I don't get up into the sky. I don't observe what's up there, so I have no way to give an educated answer. My only
in the flat Earth like community, is the anti-moon as an explanation? That's a thing. This is the first time I'm hearing about the anti-moon. Frankly, I'm a little shocked.
Yeah. Well, actually, the first time I heard about it was in Eric Dubé's presentations, where he talks about the Hindu perspective, and they have I think it's Ketu and Rahu are two names that they have given to what they would call the black suns, that they would have attributed to something up in the sky, occulting both the sun and the moon, because you have solar and lunar eclipses. And so that the understanding is that those ancient explanations didn't consider the Earth to be what was causing the shadow, but it was something else, and that something else was up in the sky. So that is something that is out there, yeah.
That seems more reasonable than just the Earth being in between an anti-moon or two suns. That's bizarre. Anyway, go ahead and respond to what Dr. Kroon said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's interesting is that I was walking with my children along a stream this last summer, and I came to a part where it was pretty clear, but there was a rock and there was an eddy that was created, and I watched the swirling water, and I saw below that swirl a perfectly black circle that moved underneath that ebbing cyclone of water. And so I saw a demonstration then that there was something that was created by water, which is normally transparent, but when it was in motion and in a circle, it created a perfectly black shadow on the ground of the riverbed. Now mm-hmm. that was something that in my mind went, there's something that makes sense of what they're saying that could be up in the sky. It could be something atmospheric up there that happens, and it happens on a cyclical basis. There's tons of stuff that we could talk about. There's tons of stuff. I wish I could quit my trucking job and study the shit out of this stuff, because it's blowing my mind. I would love to come down one way or the other. I think one of the things that we say as flat earthers, if we're honest, is I don't care what it is. I just want the truth. And we don't feel that the heliocentric model is the best presentation of truth, because we have observations that we feel contradict and go against the mainstream narrative. So I forgot what I was going to say necessarily, but yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff that is on the table for us to discuss, and yeah, I totally forgot my train of thought.
It's okay, Dr. Kroon. Do you want to mention your since we're kind of hitting on time anyway, your final point about the constellations in the northern and southern hemisphere?
Yeah. So what's cool is the way some of the properties that are noteworthy here of the night sky in the northern hemisphere is that we have the North Star, Polaris, which is actually 40 arc minutes